I'm not 100% sure what's triggered all of these feelings of anxiety about weddings. I've been overall really lucky. I've had mostly positive experience as a wedding photographer, but I have been feeling like I'm enjoying it less and less.
The goal isn't to live forever. The goal is to create something that will.
Hello, you're listening to Perspective, a podcast for wedding creatives where we sit down together with a special guest and talk about our many years of experience in the wedding industry. We've got Ashey Baxter in the studio today, and we're going to be talking about when it's time to leave the wedding industry. Ashey is a former wedding photographer based here in Glasgow and has been shooting weddings for the past 7 years. We talk openly and honestly about her experiences shooting weddings and what has driven her to make the decision to never again shoot another wedding. This episode is going to be enlightening if you've suffered through any of the common hardships which come through running a wedding business. We have a little fun getting a little dark on today's episode, but there's a twist. Let's just say Ashey has a unique excitement for insurance, and that I've never been so excited talking about it too. But first, what are we drinking?
You tell us.
I've got the bag and I've done the intro. Here, you do this.
So it's a Southside Roasters coffee, and it's an Ethiopian Yirashefe. I think my Ethiopian's pretty good.
I thought you were calling me something bad there.
It's tasty.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
What does it say on the bag? One of the world's most sought after coffees, hand-picked and wet processed from the birthplace of coffee. A distinct fruity acidity, traditional wine-like mocha taste with lots of body, a smooth, all-day, easy drinking coffee.
I'd say it's quite easy drinking.
I'd say it's really easy drinking. That sounds right.
That was a lot of words in one sentence, I felt. That was like a very long list. As a dyslexic, I can't read very well, so thanks, Southside Roasters. I'm just kidding. So while we drink coffee, we kind of like to debrief a little bit and talk about the weddings that we've shot over the weekend, but obviously you're a little bit of a unique case.
Yes.
So how about we talk about your last ever wedding and how that went?
Which was, let's see, it would be 2 weeks ago on Sunday. And it was a nice wedding to finish my career on. Mm-hmm. A great couple. You couldn't ask for a more laid-back couple. Mm. And they specifically hired me because they liked my candid style of documentation, which was good. It was quite challenging in the respect that it was raining all day, very heavily, which makes a difficult job even harder. Mm-hmm. And it was also the European, what was it we had? The championship.
The European Championships.
Yeah, but all the roads were closed because, and it was a city centre wedding. So that was a bit stressful thinking about getting from bridal prep to, I can never say the venue name correctly, Oranmore. How you say it?
Oranmore, yeah. If you speak to anyone from Edinburgh, it's something else completely wrong, but yeah, you're right.
So that was tough, but no, it was like I said, a really nice wedding to end things on, just because the couple were so lovely and lots of family had come from far away, and I always think that makes things nicer as well, because it's not often you get them all together in one place. So it was a good note to end on. Just a few challenges there, but what would a wedding be without a few challenges?
Exactly.
Yeah, I know, right? And I remember when the golf was on, and
it was cycling.
Sorry, it was cycling. You're absolutely right.
I think we were over in Edinburgh that weekend.
Was it? I thought we were in Aberdeen, and it was a weekend, and then
possibly
because our discussion
there was two different races a few weeks apart.
Oh, bloody hell! Too much sport.
I like sport, but not when they're affecting my weddings.
Yes.
Yeah. So luckily, we thought that the road closures would affect us coming back from a wedding in Aberdeen, but they didn't. And then the next time, I think we were shooting on the different day. So if the race was a Sunday, we shot on the Saturday.
Yeah.
So it didn't affect us.
Well, I said to my bride that it's difficult enough getting parked near the Oranmore on a
Yeah.
normal day, let alone when there are all kinds of road closures. So I said to her, I'm going to leave bridal prep early just to make sure that I'm at the ceremony on time. I can't think of a worse nightmare for your last wedding to be one where you miss the ceremony.
Yeah.
So I left
Although
early.
if you were going to miss a ceremony, the last one's probably the best one to miss.
But I left early, and the ceremony was at 2:00, and I spent ages trying to find a relatively close parking space. So finally got parked quite far away and just bolted to the venue and got there at 1:55 p.m. So it was all good, but I was very sweaty.
Lovely.
Weddings are quite sweaty work.
I think so too.
I agree. I'm very often dripping with sweat, and then there was one wedding a few weeks ago. I just lifted my tie and it was just sweat down, just under my tie. It's disgusting.
But is that because it's for you? It's a physical job, or is it because, like, for me, it's more like an anxiety thing because you're rushing around. There's so much going on that's what makes me sweat. This is a weird conversation, but let's go with it.
For me, it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
The most stressful periods of the day for me are when I'm about to hit the main points that I need to document all of. Like, so the ceremony and speeches. So setting those up, if I'm running late, I get kind of, a wee bit panicky.
Right, yeah.
Luckily for me, I have Gregg, and he goes from the groom's house and does the setting up of the ceremony. So I just kind of need to show up and be ready most of the time.
We're fortunate that we always work as a duo. So I take on a lot of the logistical stuff and usually the heavy lifting, taking the bags into the venue and stuff.
That's very true.
But yeah, the stress of those points is quite tough.
See, that's funny because I'd say, like, for me as a photographer or an ex-photographer, those are the two easier parts of the day because you just kind of photograph what's happening and really don't have any control over that part. The part of the day that really stresses me out, are the group photos and rounding everybody up. And it's just a logistical nightmare, no matter how much preparation I have in advance and, printing out lists and having the grind broom appoint somebody to know who to get. It's still always a nightmare. I'm really happy I won't have to do that anymore. That's the worst part for me.
Yeah.
Is that pretty easy as... Do you call yourself videographers, or is that a bad word?
Filmmakers.
To
be honest,
there's no standard term.
No.
I think filmmakers is the most standard one nowadays because videographers has got that sort of old connotations. So wedding filmmaker.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'd say that's where the difference is. Well, not major difference, but ceremony and speeches, we usually have to document in full, depending on what our deliverable is. So there's a lot of pressure there because you've got to get every moment sort of thing.
And all the audio and
the audio.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Our debrief for this week, because obviously we're shooting this on the Friday just so people out there know.
Recording
this on a Friday so people out there know. I've been re-editing a film from a bride. And it's not something that we usually do. I think I'm quite prideful when I make a film and I'm like, yes, this is it. That is the best it will be. And then I come back and then we have an email from the bride and she's got like 3 pages of changes with minute marks and notes. And I know it's not me. I know it's issues that the bride has about herself. So it's not bothering me as much as it maybe would.
That's the joys of this line of work, that you get the highs of the emails where it's like, oh my God, I love it. It's so amazing. Yeah. But then once every so often, like in 8 years, this is a rare occasion, but it just hits you in the gut. You're like, man, I put my heart into that film.
Yeah, especially if you're confident in that work. Like, I've noticed that the weddings that I come away from and I'm a bit like, I don't know if I'm 100% happy with my work. Those are always the weddings that the couples love the photos, and the the very rare occasions that I come away from a wedding and going, I nailed it. Like, I'm really happy with that. That couldn't have gone better. Those are the couples that get back in touch with a lot of criticisms and suggestions and wanting more. So it's nice to see I'm not alone with that.
Yeah. Although our bride actually wanted less.
Oh.
She wanted to be removed from her film, which is weird. I mean, like, okay, I can remove you from your own vows, which look weird, but it's fine.
Yeah.
It's obviously not.
And while Simon's been doing that, I've been at my niece's birthday. Took a couple of days up in Aberdeen.
That's right.
Away from
all
it.
right for some.
Yeah, not fully away, because you've been testing out a new camera that we purchased.
Yeah, true.
So
What's that?
the GH5 over there, the Metabone speed adapter, and a Sigma 18 to 35.
Yes.
You took it away. I arrived and I didn't even know. I didn't even know.
About an hour before I left.
I get very excited when new toys come to the office and I get to open something. But no, Greg didn't even tell me, and he just took it in his bag and took it up to Aberdeen. What a dick.
Well, whose camera is it? Is it yours?
Business.
Right.
Yes.
So you both share it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you should have saved that moment to share.
That's right, Greg. That's right. You should have
Sorry.
done. Thanks, Ashley. So let's get to the main gist of the podcast. First of all, who is Ashey Baxter?
Oh my goodness. I mean, I assume you just want a brief overview.
Go deep, go not deep. What's the opposite of deep?
Shallow?
Go shallow. That's the one.
So I am an ex-wedding photographer. My main job is I run an insurance business. I live in Glasgow. I like video games, photography, and my dog Indy. That's how I describe myself. That's who Ashley is.
Very cool. Well, hang on. This is very important. This is a serious question. Are you PlayStation, Xbox, or Nintendo?
I am PlayStation.
Okay, very good. That's fine. We
Okay,
can continue.
good.
We can continue. Good. Yeah, so what got you into wedding photography whenever you did? How long have you been doing it up until now?
7 long years. So I used to live, before Glasgow, I lived in Inverclyde, and that's where I got my first camera. And there was a local news site, and I emailed the editor and I was like, your photography's rubbish on this website. I could do a better job. And little did I know that I'd actually insulted the editor, because he turned out to be the photographer as well.
Oh,
and it was like one guy managing this whole news site. So this website was getting thousands of unique hits every day. And he gave me my own photo blog on it. So I would just kind of go around Inverclyde taking photos of things and put them on there. And because there was quite a big audience, a lot of people were seeing my photos. So a couple contacted me and they were freaking out. They were like, our wedding photographer's double booked us.
Wow.
And she's cancelled our wedding. Oh. And we really need somebody to step in. We know you're not a professional photographer, but would you do it? And it was something I hadn't even thought about weddings at that point. And it wasn't something that I jumped at the chance to do. I took a couple of days to think about it. And I thought, well, there really isn't that much pressure. They know I'm not a professional wedding photographer. They're in a pretty desperate situation. Yeah. So let's just do it and see what happens. And that was the first of many. It just sort of grew from there, just via word of mouth. And I never marketed myself as a wedding photographer, at least not for the first few years, but just started picking up. Like I said, I've worked full time in insurance for 13 years. So this was something I was just doing on the side. So I was doing about 10 a year just from that sort of first accidental wedding gig back in 2011 it would be. So yeah, about 10 a year for the past 7 years, and here we are.
Cool.
She says with a complete blank face, open eyes.
Yeah.
That's a look of fear almost. I'm
just really ready to be done with it. I'm like ready to leave that part of my life in the past now. I know you've mentioned 8 years for the both of you.
Yeah. We combine that to 14. That's not
No,
right,
that's
man.
not
That's
right.
16 years. Oh my God. I told you I was dyslexic. I told you.
Yeah,
Anyway.
16 years. Well, it's a long time to be doing something, I think, anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of tired of it and ready to move on to insurance.
Yay!
Everybody's favourite topic.
I love insurance, by the way.
We can tell.
Yeah.
What drew you to that conclusion that now was the right time to get out?
Well, there are quite a few reasons. There wasn't one defining factor. The first reason, which is quite a positive one, is that 2 years ago, like I said, I've been working in insurance for 13 years, and 2 years ago decided to start my own business. And as with any kind of business, it takes a while for momentum to pick up. But I finally got to a point where I have hundreds of customers. I'm working on this business myself, and it's just gotten quite difficult managing that as well as doing wedding photography. Now, obviously, wedding photography is quite seasonal, but I really struggled this year with, I booked a few midweek weddings, which is when my insurance customers expect me to be available. So I had there was one instance where I was actually hiding in the toilet of a wedding, sending out quotes to customers. And I don't want to be in that position, and it's not fair on my insurance customers, and it's really not fair on the couple who have hired me to shoot their wedding. Now, as insurance as well as, it's like you get your renewals. So I've just finished my first batch of renewals, and I'm now in my second year of renewals, and I'm retaining 87% of my customers. So looking ahead to next year's wedding season, I'd be going into my third year of renewals. So I would be retaining 87% of the hundreds of customers I currently have, as well as signing up lots of new customers. And I'm kind of gauging that I'll have about over 500 customers by that point. And I just think if it was hard enough this year with 300, what's it going to be like next year with 500? So it seemed like a good time to stop weddings and focus exclusively on insurance. So that's a positive thing. My insurance business is growing. That's a good thing. There were a few negative factors that made me feel like now is the time to give it up. And that is that I have stopped enjoying shooting weddings. I used to really enjoy them, and that's been replaced with anxiety. I'm not 100% sure what's triggered all of these feelings of anxiety about weddings. I've been overall really lucky. I've had mostly positive experience as a wedding photographer, but I have been feeling like I'm enjoying it less and less. And I'm happy to go into more details about my feelings about it if you want.
Yeah, it's definitely a valued perspective, because obviously everyone sees the wedding industry as like great and glitz and glam, but there's a reality to it that not many people going in kind of expect. So I think as well, there as a wedding photographer and filmmakers as well, there are so many factors that affect whether a wedding is good from our perspective. I'm not talking about from the couple or guest's perspective, but from somebody who's there to document the day. There are a lot of factors that influence whether it's a good wedding. You've got the weather, which, as we all know, being in Scotland, is usually against us, right? Yeah.
Very inconsistent.
Yes, so we've got the weather, we've got even the location itself, the lighting of the venue, the chemistry between the couple, family politics even play a part in it too. The schedule of the day, like do you have enough time to get, the photos that you're happy with and the photos that you need? And the frustrating thing, and the thing that caused me a lot of anxiety, was we have control over none of that. That freaks me out. So more often than not, you're doing a wedding that doesn't tick all of those boxes. And I'd say that after 7 years, I've only done a very small handful of weddings that have ticked all of those boxes. So more often than not, it's just really stressful. Would you not agree with me?
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
How do you handle it?
We have in our contract, it's a live event, so if anything goes wrong, it's our fault.
Yeah, but you don't want to fall back onto your contract though.
No, not
It's
at all.
there for a reason. But yeah, the stress of when you turn up at a barn venue and there's no lights, they went for candlelit vibe, and you're like, my camera cannot see anything in this light.
Yeah.
And then somebody from the venue says, oh no, you can't put a light up because they want to keep the vibe. And you're like, okay, well, their memories of this are going to suffer because of that.
Yeah.
Oh,
and so and couples don't think about these things, obviously. So that's one thing that just is really a big thing, is that there's so many factors that affect it, and we have control over none of them. Yeah. That sucks.
I do feel like sometimes with film, the unexpected things sometimes work in your favor, even though you don't want to be in the situation. Like, for example, rain. Like, in most cases, that would be an absolute nightmare. And you know, brides usually don't want to go in the rain. But if you're lucky to get a bride who wants to go in the rain, and you are bold enough to put your camera gear in the rain, you can get some really like bold kind of material from that. But it's a very rare thing, so... Yeah,
I mean, I would say, like, if I shot 50 weddings, 49 brides wouldn't be willing to go out in the rain.
No.
Yeah. So there's that. Another reason is... So it'll be interesting to see if you agree with me here, because we have similar years of experience. I do think client expectations are changing. And it could be that I've just been lucky for the past 6 years, and then, or that doesn't work out mathematically, the past 5 years, and then the last 2 years have had a few difficult experiences. But I think that this might be down to the rise of social media. This is a guess, but I think platforms like Pinterest, a lot of couples are using these to plan their wedding, which is great. That's partly what the tool's there for. But when you are inspired by and pinning, you know, beach weddings with Italian sunsets and dinner outdoors, and then you book a venue on the rainy banks of Loch Lomond, you're going to be disappointed. And I think not all couples, but some couples expect us to take what's in front of us and make it look like what they've seen on Pinterest. And I would say I'm pretty good with my camera, but I'm not that good. I'm not magic.
Yeah.
So would you agree with me?
Yeah. We have someone at the door. Susie, stop getting things delivered to the office. You're terrorizing our podcast and you're not even here, woman.
This is going to be like a regular occurrence of this podcast.
Muscle Foods? That's a lot of chicken.
Who's that for?
That'll be for Susie Lee, who's not here. But, yeah. She's into her gym right now.
Oh, that's cool.
I think we've all... You had a running phase. I had a gym phase. Susie has a gym phase. She's going through the gym phase.
What makes you think it's a phase? She might like turn into a bodybuilder or something.
There was one day where Susie came in and ate 6 bowls of cereal.
And this was only a few weeks ago.
This was only a few weeks ago. And she was all like sad and mopey and oh god, she's hilarious. But this is why. Because she's like me. When she goes at it hard. Like that is a lot of like fine meat produce right there, and she'll have to cut that up and stick it in the freezer, and that's a lot of work, and then you gotta eat that, and she boils her chicken. I'm like, oh no, I don't, no, it's a lot of work. She'll do it for a while.
I love your confidence in her.
It's just
I think you're maybe putting us on her, because you went through phases. Every start of wedding season, I'm like, I'm going to get back into running and keep my fitness up so I can recover from weddings quicker. And then I do it for like maybe 2 weeks. And then something happens, or we go away for a wedding. And then I'm like, I'll get back into it next week.
Yeah.
I did that about 3 weeks ago, maybe now.
Yeah.
But they say you need to do something consistently for a month for it to become a habit. Did you stick at it for a month?
No.
Well, that's a problem.
I have done in years gone by, but not in the last couple of years.
Yeah. And by the way, when I told that story of Susie cutting up the meat, I 100% pictured myself going through the same box, cutting up my meat with scissors and hating it. I did it 3 times and no, I can't do it.
So it's literally just a big box of chicken.
Yeah. I mean, they do other things, beef, pork, but yeah, they're actually a really good company. But it is obviously
They could be our first sponsor.
Yeah. Where are we off topic?
Yeah, where were we?
Damn it, Susie.
Client expectations are
Yes.
changing because of social media, in my humble opinion. Do you agree?
Was Simon going to agree?
I actually do agree.
Ooh.
And yeah, I think with video, we get a little bit more of an easier run in terms of that. Because we can shoot things in slow motion, and we can use music to make something feel a different way.
Yeah, it's
So-
easier for us to influence people's feelings.
Yeah, and we briefly chatted with Clara about this last week. Whether or not it made to the edit, I'm not sure, but it was talking about people's expectations of weddings, and sometimes that those weddings don't go to plan.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's our job as filmmakers to make the wedding film of their wedding that they wanted, instead of actually the wedding day that they had. But I can imagine that would be a lot harder in photos.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like you've hit the nail on the head there. I've never thought about video that way. Of course, you can. It's all in the edit and the music, and it brings out the emotion.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes me think every single couple should have video of their wedding.
They should.
Yeah.
That's another part of why I don't want to do weddings anymore, is because I think that a lot of times the wedding day doesn't live up to the couple's expectations, because they've spent possibly years planning this thing, every small detail. They've put so much of themselves into it, and also a lot of money into it.
Yes.
And there's a ton of pressure on the day for them, for it to go as they planned, for them to enjoy it, for their guests to enjoy it. And then I think that it doesn't always turn out the way they saw it in their head. And as photographers and filmmakers, we're often the last supplier left post-wedding that they're in contact with. So sometimes it feels like they can take those frustrations out on us. And I've certainly experienced this year a couple of times. And I just don't want that anymore.
Can you go into details about those experiences that you had this year? Obviously, you don't need to give out names and locations. That's totally fine.
I mean, what else can I add to it? I feel like I turned up and did exactly what's advertised as what's in my portfolio. Also, obviously, I meet the couple beforehand and we talk about my style and what they can expect to make sure we're all on the same page. And I always make a point as well of being like, is there anything at this wedding that I absolutely couldn't miss that's really important to you? So make sure we cover all of those bases, and I felt like we did. And that was one of the weddings that I came away from. Very, very rare occasion for me. I think as creatives, you tend to hate your own work. Right? Is that right? Or is that...
I love my own work,
Okay,
but I'm a
well.
narcissist. I'm kidding.
Yeah, as I often think, I could have done a better job there, or I should have spent more time doing that, or whatever. But this was a wedding I walked away from and I was like, they are going to love these photos. And then it was kind of similar to what you were saying earlier, where you had the 3-page essay from the bride.
Yeah.
And that's kind of very similar to what I had. And I thought, there's absolutely nothing else that I can do here. I've captured the day as it happened. I know that there was a lot about the day that the bride was unhappy with. As a photographer, I can't do anything about that. But again, I think it's because we are the last suppliers. We're the last part of that day, which they've spent years planning and goes by in a flash. So that's why I think a lot of it is taken out on us.
Yeah, we've had one occasion over the years that sort of hit us a bit like that as well.
Oh, is this
So
the bad one? Are we talking about that?
And you're right, we were the last person to deal with them. So obviously they took their frustrations out on us maybe. Like, we produced really good, at the time, this was like 7 years ago. It was a very early wedding.
Yeah.
Produced a really good film, but there was one shot that we weren't told about that was important to them. And because of the way we had set up, we weren't able to capture it. So if they had told us about this beforehand, we would have got it. But after the wedding, because it wasn't the film, we got emails saying that we had ruined their wedding film because that one shot.
Yeah, like Gregg said, we missed that one moment. And obviously we did have, I joked about it before, the live events contract in our, a live events clause in our contract. We have reworded it since to make absolutely sure that people understand the live events aspect of it. But yeah, that was really hard, because I thought I made the perfect wedding film for this couple. They were fun and loving, and they had the story where they'd play like hide and seek in somewhere, and there was this narrative in the film where we did something similar. It sounds cheesy, but it actually turned out really nicely. Playing through Edinburgh, and then I just thought it was really good. The soundtrack was ace, the dancing was ace, and
so even after 6 years, that still
haunts you.
Haunts us, yeah.
Still haunts me.
Those stresses.
I want to know, see, when you tell me stories like that, working in insurance, I immediately think, well, this is why we have professional indemnity insurance. But like, what happened there? Because in my case, I would say I was 2 emails away from being like, here's your money back, bugger off.
Yeah.
But I knew that I couldn't do that. Working in insurance, I knew that would be technically me admitting liability, like being like, right, I didn't do a good enough job. So I held my ground and just hoped it would go away, and it did. What happened with you guys?
I think eventually it was the same ending.
Yeah, I was too proud, and I knew I didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah. They came back and forth, eventually at one point threatening to get a friend to post a story in like a tabloid newspaper,
an expose
saying that we ruined a wedding film sort of thing.
They were going to destroy our company.
And that was like, shit.
Yeah, but if anybody
serious.
had actually seen the video, like any sane person would be like, this was an amazing video. That's a bridezilla.
Can I say the event that we missed? Very specifically, the moment that we missed was, so the bride was supposed to be walked down the aisle with her gran, but on the day they changed it. So she was walked down the aisle with her brother, but he then handed over the bride to the gran right at the end of the aisle. But I'm guessing this was a very special moment for the family, because the front row kind of like curved in to see. So both angles at the side were stood in front of. So that blocked those 2 angles. And then the angle at the back, like I thought I'd walked down the aisle and I'd caught the moment where she was then given to the groom. Obviously she wasn't given to the groom, she was given to the gran, and I had turned around and I was walking back up the aisle. So obviously I'm in the wide, which isn't properly set up, and that's how that incident happened. Guess blocked the cameras.
Yeah.
But
and I was like, and that was why I knew I hadn't done anything wrong.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because it
all comes down to they didn't tell us that was important, because if they did, Simon would have stayed there for a wee bit longer,
and now we do. We actually do now. So just in case anyone doesn't tell us.
And ironically, just last night we got 2 emails from upcoming weddings where they've told us about things that are super important.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like there's balloons being set off in honour of a grandparent, and there's something else that I've not read properly.
Yeah.
But now that we know that, it's like, okay, we will be aware of that at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that totally doesn't sound like, but you know that it wasn't your fault. And
so I actually got on the phone to a photographer friend of mine, Eva Sanders, and she helped walk me through the process of how I should deal with this situation. For the people out there who don't have that, what advice can we give them if this happens? Like, a bride comes back to them and they're not happy at all. Some people deal with this very differently from other people, but how would we advise people to deal with it?
Gosh. So I think you know when you've done your job well. I think you know when somebody's coming back and making an accusation, and you know that it's just them being perhaps an unreasonable person. So if it's that kind of case, I'd say, first of all, you can be confident that you've stuck to the contract and your end of the bargain. From my experience in insurance, I certainly wouldn't start to say, all right, okay, I can see where you're coming from. Maybe I can do this, because that could look like you're admitting that you have done something wrong. And then if it ever did escalate to your insurer having to get involved, they might not have your back and pay the claim because it looks like you have admitted that you've done something wrong. I would take, some great advice that was given to me in a Facebook group I'm a part of, was to just take each point that this difficult client I had, each point that she was making that she wasn't happy with, to just take that and address it as best as I could and really break it down into those manageable chunks, which I did, and that really helped instead of just getting overwhelmed by the entire situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that, and I replied to each of her points, and I was quite happy with how I handled it. If it continued to persist, I would actually pick up the phone and speak to my insurer and say, I'm having trouble with a client right now, and I think that it could possibly escalate to them making some kind of, like, trying to get the money back off me for their wedding that I photographed. And the insurer would look at the communication between you and your client, and they would decide, right, yes, it does look like this could escalate. Obviously, they don't want it going to court because then that's going to cost the insurer more money. So they'll usually provide you with a solicitor, a team of legal experts who would help you negotiate with your client, whether it's them doing it for you or whether they're telling you what to say. Because obviously, I think the second you bring lawyers into things, that's your relationship with that client over. It's, you know, it's not going to be great after that. So that's certainly an option, is getting them involved as soon as possible so that they can give you proper legal advice on how to handle this. Because the difficulty there is that, like I said, you don't want to be in a position where it looks like you're saying, right, okay, I could have done a better job, or I didn't capture that moment, or just admitting liability, because then you're not going to have the backing off your insurer. So that's the advice I'd give, is like, take each claim that this person's making, try and respond and do what you can to make that better. And if it keeps persisting, pick up the phone and speak to your insurer. You better have insurance.
We do.
Oh, good. Okay, then.
So what cover would that be? Is that professional indemnity?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that that's the most important cover anybody can have who's running a business, because it's a really meaty cover. I love professional indemnity insurance, but I like to break it down by thinking of it as insurance for problem clients or careless mistakes. So, and also there's like a really scary statistic that 44% of freelancers will be stung by a bad client at one point. And working in insurance, I've seen those situations myself where you just get some people who like making life difficult for others, and they'll make accusations, and they'll maybe be a bit of a bully and try to get more out of you. Just because that's in their nature. So this kind of insurance would really help in those situations. And then you've got public liability as well, but we've never had a claim for that, which would be more like if somebody tripped over all your gear on location and broke their leg and couldn't work for a year and sued you, type of thing. I've never seen anything like that happen, but never say never. So yeah, professional indemnity, make sure you all have that.
Yeah, I wonder how many people out there do actually have insurance.
But it's not even that. See, I get really passionate about this, by the way.
Yeah, I can tell your body language changed.
Love it.
Yeah, it's getting me excited for insurance, and that's not something I thought I would ever say.
But for example, when you had that 3-page essay, Bride, I bet not once it crossed your mind that, well, don't worry, we have insurance. Like, no. I bet that never crossed your mind. Whereas when I was dealing with my difficult clients who kept coming back with more things they were unhappy about, I thought, this is really stressful, but thank goodness I have the backing legally and financially just in case it does escalate. So a lot of it is just, we don't understand enough about what this insurance is, which means that there will have been situations, I guarantee that people are listening to this have been in, where they could have used their insurance and they haven't. So I know it's not something we all want to brush up on and learn about, because it's a really dry topic, but it is worth just any kind of situation you're in with a client where you think, oh, this could escalate, they're getting really angry, they're really unhappy with what I've done. Chill out, you've got insurance.
Yeah. That's, in this industry, most people are solo business owners or working on their own, and we've talked about that before, and the fact that they always take everything on their own shoulders and they feel like they're having to deal with everything. So knowing that, okay, I've got peace of mind that if anything happens, I've got that insurance. Even if it's not the first thing you think of, that, oh, it's okay, I'll contact my insurer. Just knowing that you could, that's actually quite comforting.
Oh, it's so comforting.
Yeah.
And out of all of the claims that I've had with my customers, none of them have actually ever went to court. So it doesn't have to go that far. Like I said, it can just be that first inkling that something might get to that stage. That's when you should involve your insurer. I could talk about this stuff all day.
Well, I'm actually I'm genuinely loving this chat about insurance, because in my head, and in fact, I watched you on stage. Was it Hey?
Oh yeah.
I saw you say something about how we all need insurance, but we all don't expect them to do their job. And I feel like I always have insurance, but it's always like, oh, I always need to do this, and I never like it.
Again?
Yeah, why am I doing this? I don't expect you to back me up if something goes wrong. That's not a healthy way to think about insurance.
No, but I can see why you do think that way. 73% of consumers don't trust their insurance provider, and I can understand why, because the whole business model of insurance is built on them profiting by not helping you out and paying your claim. But it's actually in an insurer's interest to pay out claims, because we're governed by the FCA, so we have to meet their standards, otherwise the insurer will go out of business. But I like to, because I get a lot of customers, photographers, freelance marketers, designers saying to me, I'm only buying this because my client's making me, and I'm just like, it's just a tick a box.
Yeah.
And they always think it's not going to be valuable to me, I'm never going to have to use it. Well, first of all, out of all the claims that we've paid, not one person ever thought they were going to have to use their insurance. But secondly, it is really valuable, because instead of thinking of it as throwing 20, 30, 40 pounds a month into the abyss, think of it as giving you access to a team of legal advisors for £20 a month. So if something ever did happen with a client, you would be in a panic just in general dealing with this client, but then you'd be like, now we have to go find a lawyer. How do we find a lawyer? We'll Google, we'll ask for recommendations. It just heightens the whole anxiety of the experience, and then finding the right lawyer that's got knowledge in your field, whereas all of that's just done for you with your monthly subscription that you're paying to your insurer. They'll just go, no problem, here are our experts who are, you know, who have dealt with these situations before. And that's why it's so valuable. Like, I just don't get it. Why do people not see how valuable this is?
Well, have you seen The Incredibles?
The first one, the original, yeah.
When Mr. Incredible's very unhappy in his office, it's obviously an insurance company, he's just stamping away, and this old woman comes, oh, save me, I don't know what I do. You're going to run me out of my house and home. I feel like I'm going to be that granny when I need to make a claim. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, it is a really emotional situation. Like, I've had people on the phone saying, will my insurance pay out? Because if they don't, I'm going to lose everything. Like, our biggest claim's been for £60,000.
Wow.
And we paid it out. So,
and now you're poor.
Well, I'm not the insurer, so it's okay. But and our smallest claim is for £9,000. So, and I know that weddings, so you might think, well, I'm charging, I don't know, £1,800 for a wedding, so my claim will never be that big. But it's not just the fee for the wedding that somebody might claim back, it's also all of the damages, and you've ruined the whole day, and we spent 15 grand on this day, and suddenly things escalate. So so yeah, it's something to consider.
Yeah. So tell us about With Jack. With Jack?
Yeah.
With Jack. Because on your website it just has Jack.
Well,
and I was confused, and Gregg said, oh no, Ashley's going through a rebrand. I'm like, is that, so it's with Jack or Jack?
Yeah, it's with Jack.
It's with Jack. Cool.
Yeah, we are going through a rebrand, and we're going to launch the new website soon. I don't know when. I've not committed to a date yet.
Well, you've got nothing on your calendar. Come on, snap.
It's not me. I'm waiting for
all your weekends are free now.
Yeah. Yeah. So with Jack is, I mean, I've kind of done my pitch already. About 44% of freelancers will be stung by a bad client. So I'm building a platform that helps them financially and legally if that happens. That's what With Jack is. At the moment, it's professional indemnity, public liability and contents insurance for creative freelancers. So most of my customers are web designers or developers. And then I've also got photographers, marketers and consultants, that kind of thing. And the whole idea is that instead of filling out a really boring traditional proposal form that's asking you a bunch of stuff you don't understand, you'll have a chat with Jack. His questions change depending on your answers, meaning you're never asked something that isn't relevant to the work you do, so you get the insurance you need quicker. So that's the whole idea. And then I want to like expand on things now that I can focus 100% on it because I'm not distracted with weddings. So I want to like add more products to the line, like single invoice insurance, which I don't think it would be applicable for photographers and filmmakers, because you would invoice a client, and if they go out of business, then we would reimburse the cost of that invoice. So I don't think that would be... Yeah, it's really hard though. Awesome. It's like the hardest industry to break into and build a business out of. So make sure you support my business.
Yeah. Well,
so on that point, we were going to ask, does With Jack cover photographers? But you mentioned they do.
Yeah, I have a few photography customers. I've never had a professional indemnity claim for a photographer, but we have had contents claims, which we've paid out.
Is that all their equipment?
Yeah. So yeah, we have a policy for photographers and filmmakers, although the insurer calls them videographers.
Oh, I knew I didn't like them. Knew it.
Yep, we'll just renew with Chris Cox.
And my little business is, so I'm trying to do something a bit different to like I have a lot of respect for Hiscox. They're one of the insurers I tried to work with, but they rejected me. But I'm small and I listen to my customers, and like what we're doing right now, when you were talking about those problems you're having, I'm like, well, what if we, could there be a solution to that? So I want With Jack to grow with my customers. I'm very open to feedback, and if you want something a bit more than just to pay money into the abyss every month, and you are interested in growing with a company, then check out withjack.co.uk.
New website coming soon as well.
Yeah.
I feel like I heard a jingle in my head that needs to have a jingle there.
Yeah, well, if you come up with one.
I don't know. Too much pressure. Too much expectations on this song now. Can't know. Yeah, so if you're a wedding creative, do you only clients in the UK, or do you? Yeah, that's fine.
Unfortunately. Do you have a big listener base outside of the UK?
Well, technically, we don't have any listener base because we haven't released the podcast yet.
Oh yeah.
Although, by the time this one goes out, this should be the
and also
5th episode.
This started on the back of the Facebook Live, and there was a lot of Americans, Irish. There's people from abroad as well. So,
But even if nobody can use With Jack, I still want everybody to get insurance.
Definitely get it. If I feel like if you're a sole trader, you're less likely to get it. I don't know why, but
and you should, because you're, as a sole trader, you're more exposed. Like if your house is at stake and all of your
I guess the mindset is I've got my main job, I'm just going to do weddings on the side.
Yeah.
Like there's that mindset.
Sort of your position,
but I had insurance.
You
are interested in insurance, so of course you did.
Yeah,
But there will be a lot of people who like, I only do 5 or 6 just part time.
Yeah, totally. But all it takes is that one bad experience. And weirdly enough, so before I was into business insurance for freelancers, I was doing buy-to-let insurance, which is as boring as it sounds. And I started wedding photography when I was in buy-to-let insurance, and I didn't even think about getting insurance for my business, my wedding stuff, until I was shooting a wedding and the makeup artist said, I saw one of your photos of a model I'd taken to like this abandoned warehouse or something, and she was like, you've got a lot of balls taking somebody to somewhere as dangerous as that. But I guess you'll have public liability insurance. And I was like, yes. And that's what planted the seed in my head. And then I went and researched it a bit more and bought it. And now I understand so much more about it. So sometimes it's just like planting that seed in somebody's head. I don't mean to turn your podcast into an advert, so let's move on.
No, it's fine. I mean, if you're listening in the UK and you shoot weddings, definitely hit up Ashley with Jack and just, see what she can do for you, because she's making insurance sound very exciting. I'm not kidding. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I had so much fun. Can I just come back and drink coffee?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
The bar's always stocked.
The door's always open.
All the Glasgow roasters. You've mentioned the website, withjack.co.uk. where else can people find you or the business online? What's your social handles?
Oh, I'm one of those people who has different social handles because I'm like consistently inconsistent. So there's Ashey Baxter on Instagram, which is obviously maybe more appealing to people listening to this because it's photos.
Yep.
And then I am Ashey on Twitter, where I sometimes do talk about insurance. So those two places.
Cool. Do you still do your blog? A Girl with a Camera?
Yeah, that's just fun. Like, oh, here I am at the Good Coffee Cartel.
Yes.
Type of photos. So yeah. So yeah, that's still updated. It's Girl with a Camera, which, I registered that domain a good 10 years ago, and now it should be Woman with a Camera. But don't go to that URL because I think there's probably something dodgy there.
Oh, God. Please, someone go there and tell us.
Put a link to that in the show notes.
Cool. Well, thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
You've been listening to Perspective, a podcast for wedding creatives. We hope you've enjoyed this episode, and if you did, hit that subscribe button so that you know the next time an episode goes online. Leave a review. That's a massive help. And spread the word by telling a friend. But until next time, enjoy your life.